Hello there, welcome into the latest edition of the SAU Football Coaches Show. I'm Daniel Gagos, joined alongside head football coach Bill Keopple. And Coach, 5 weeks in the season into the books, not quite halfway through, about the halfway point now, going into week 6 on an 11-week schedule. Pick up a big win at Southern Nazarene. Not necessarily a must-win game, but a game that was very important, I think, to you and your staff and everybody around looking at the landscape of the conference, particularly how the conference weekend shook out. At the end of it, everybody now has at least one loss, so your team's still right in the thick of it at 3-2. Still a lot of season left to be played, but go ahead and talk to us about that Southern Nazarene game. That's a game, you know, you go on the road, second longest road trip you make all year, so not the easiest of trips in terms of in length of traveling, and get off to a slow start in that game, but there was something that clicked there, particularly late in the third quarter and on into the fourth quarter. You scored 35 points in that fourth quarter, eventually go out to blow out Southern Nazarene. So talk about that game.
Well, obviously I might look at it a little different than you, Daniel. That was a must-win. I mean, when you look at your schedule, and there's certain teams on there that you definitely got to beat these teams, and that was a must-win. I mean, for us, I mean, as a coaching staff looking at it, that's one you got to get. No, it didn't go down the way we would have loved it to go down. You'd love it to be at halftime. You got it in hand, and you can let all your backups get a lot of PT in that game. That's what you're hoping for, but it didn't go down that way. I tell you what, Southern Naz got after us pretty good. I think a little bit of it had to do with, you can tell young kids that, this team, if you go on the road and you're not ready to play, they can beat you, and they're not believing you. They don't believe you at all, and you see it every weekend. You saw it with Ohio State playing Indiana last weekend. You saw it with LSU playing Eastern Michigan. I mean, they both struggled and barely won. We went over there, and we had a good game plan in place, and we'd done a lot of homework, and our players had done a lot of preparation mentally going into the game. But when push came to shove, by the time kickoff rolled around, we were a little flat. I think defensively, they came out and they took the ball down the field on us. Nothing special that they did. It was nothing more than missed tackles on our part. But I thought defensively we played ourselves into the game really well. After their second series, from that point on, we were slapping them in the mouth pretty good on the defensive side of the football. It was worse on the offensive side of the football because we had things there all day, and it took us a long time to get ourselves going. And hard to put a finger on it. Really is. I mean, there's so much in the game of football mentally and being able to execute. And if you're not really mentally sharp and you're not really thinking you got to give the effort that you're going to need to, and I tell my team that all the time. I mean, if you play down your speed, you play down to your opponent, you become them, and that's a little bit what we had done. And finally woke up and got some things going. I tell you what, we had some really big runs in the football game as the game went on. The 35 points in the fourth quarter. Yes, McCann had picked up a fumble and ran it in or an interception. I don't know how they classified that. Ran it in for a touchdown, and yeah, we scored one the last few seconds of the game after they had onside kicked it, and we almost ran it in for a touchdown. We put in all our backups. Yeah, we could have knelt on it, but you got a 14 tailback that he practices every day too. So let's give him a run, see if they can stop him. And walked in. I mean, good or bad, no class. People can talk about all that they want to. It's college football. It's college football. What's the difference in 48 and 55? I mean, so I want to give those kids an opportunity to try to score, and I think you're doing them a little bit of a disservice. It's a little bit different scenario, and if it's a 14 or 21-point game, and we wanted those guys to have opportunities to play. They didn't get the opportunities we wanted them to have because of the way we started the game out.
You talk about going into that type of game, and if it would have played out perfectly the way you think it will, you have a chance to get in some of those backups. Mm-hmm. One of the guys that probably would have gotten a lot of that look was William McKnight, a freshman running back for you. But instead, it's a close game all the way, basically to the end of the third quarter, and he gets some very meaningful carries. But he did a lot with them in the game with 3 touchdowns. Talk about him and maybe how he sparked that impressive fourth quarter.
Yeah, we finally made the move to put him in. After DeAndre had fumbled, we weren't getting the production that we were expecting out of our running backs. hey, give him a shot, put him out there. And that last drive right before the half, and we pitched the option to him. I don't know how long the run was, 40-something yards. I mean, that was a very impressive run. And then in the second half, I mean, he took 149 right down the middle of their defense, and it wasn't that big of a hole that he got through. When he got through it, he split the safeties, and that was impressive. His last touchdown run, even though it was shorter, I thought was more impressive than any. The cuts that he had to make, the people he had to make to miss, and that's why we brought Boo here. We thought he was going to be a big-time back for us. You get into a true freshman in here and get into fall camp, and he's learning an entire offense, and the game is moving a lot faster than what he's used to seeing in high school. It took him a little while and you never have an opportunity to really let him show you what he can do on the practice field because you're not doing a lot of scrimmaging. DeAndre's been very solid for us. It hurt us up at Arkansas Tech that Mike couldn't really go. Probably should have thrown Boo in that night some because no back needs to carry the ball 20-plus times. They really don't. And it's a long season. You're taking a lot of hits, and that's tough on anybody. And as many times as our backs are catching the ball out of the backfield, so they get more carries that way also. So that was a really pleasant surprise for us to see. And Boo's going to get to touch the ball more the rest of the year.
Looking ahead this upcoming weekend, Oklahoma Baptist comes in, a team that is a lot of unknowns there because it's their first year in Division II, first year in the Great American Conference, obviously making the transition with the NAIA. Also, too, though, a lot of it's homecoming, Hall of Fame, a lot of festivities playing around this game, expecting a big crowd once more at Wilkins Stadium, Rip Powell Field. But talk about that matchup early on. Oklahoma Baptist picked up their first win in NCAA last week against Monticello. Put up some impressive numbers there. So,
Right.
kind of what do you expect maybe in that matchup going into it, knowing what you know?
Yeah, well, it's always tough to play a team you've never played before. You don't know anything about them outside of, obviously what we see on film from them. And it definitely got our attention what they did to UAM. And it got our attention the first game of the year against Harding. I mean, Harding can say whatever they want to say. We weren't ready to play. We were flat. We were flat at Southern Mass to a certain degree, but there was a point we could put the throttle down and they couldn't stop us, and Harding couldn't get that done over there, and that speaks very well for Oklahoma Baptist, and I think they're a very well coached team. They do some things a little bit different than what you normally see from other teams in our league on the defensive side of the football with a 3-4 concept, old Okie defense. I mean, that defense has been out there for a long time. The way way they're playing it. And it does present a few little things different that you got to learn going in, but we have a lot of respect for them. I mean, that's a program that's going to be very dangerous in our league going forward. It's a program that they have a lot of money in there, and they're good in all their sports, and their facilities are really good. But with a homecoming deal, that's always an exciting week for us here. Our fans are to come back. We expect a big crowd out here. The atmosphere that provides for our football team and the energy that will provide for our football team should be a positive. Unlike being at Southern Naz the other day, I mean, it was like, is anybody going to show up today to watch this football game? But I'd much rather play in the atmosphere that we're going to be playing in Saturday. I think it'll give our players a nice shot in the arm, and we have been good here on homecoming, and hopefully we can continue that against Oklahoma Baptist, but they present a big challenge for us.
We appreciate it very much for your time again. That's head football coach Bill Keopple again. He and his Mule Riders back at home at Wilkins Stadium at Rip Powell Field this weekend. It's homecoming and Hall of Fame. Kickoff is at 2:30 p.m. We'll have the homecoming festivities starting at 2 o'clock, and we'll present the newest 2015 Hall of Fame class at halftime of that game as well. So a lot of excitement around campus. Expecting a big crowd. Coach, we appreciate it and best of luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.